Welcome to Beer Cake. I am your host, JJ Co. You can find Beer Cake with JJ Co on Anchor.fm and Spotify. I'm still waiting for the other streaming services to pick up this podcast. I don't know why it's taking so long. But anyway, as soon as they do, then my introduction, I guess, will be longer because I'll be listing all of them. I don't know. I know that's too much. But anyway, you can also follow Beer Cake with JJ Co on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm not on anything else because that's just too much. And my guest today is Nan Kuramoto. She is a comedian.
Yes,
Hi,
hello.
how are you?
Thank you for having me, JJ.
So, Nan, is it comedian or is it comic? Because I've heard both.
People have some people have the whole reasons of why they want to be called one or the other. I don't care. I'm just like, as long as the point that I am a funny person comes across, call me anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually in the description you also mentioned jester, which is actually a very courtly way of saying comedian.
Exactly. I studied theater, so
Oh, is that right?
yeah.
Like Shakespearean theater, like theater.
All of it. I was a theater major in undergrad, but I did found a Shakespeare club at my college, so a little bit of a nerd, but I have a soft spot for fools and jesters.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Actually, I think in the days of kings and royalty and monarchy, the court jester is also the one who can tell the king a bull-faced truth.
Exactly.
Right? They're the only ones who could say you're an idiot, or maybe even you're a fucking idiot, and they don't get their heads cut off.
Yeah, which is why I like adding the word jester to my bio, because I think like it specifies even more like the whole concept of telling truth, even if it's like wrapped up in a joke or seemingly offhanded way.
So is that how you see yourself as a truth teller?
Yeah, I hope so. I try my best to tell truth, but I think it's just like, okay, so let's just get into it. Sometimes
Sure.
I'll have conversations with other comedians where like they'll see my set and then they'll ask me a question about it, and like they'll be like, I thought that was a joke. And I'm like, it is, but it can also be true. And I think like for me, realizing that most of my jokes are just really based on truths, like things that happen in my life or things that I really believe and think, versus like I have had interactions with comedians who don't necessarily think that's important, who think that like, being funny is the most important thing and you can make shit up to be funny, which like sure, but I don't think I'm funny when I'm not telling something that's true, which is why I'm like, I guess Jester seems right.
Yeah, and I think even in the comic field, there are many different kinds of comedians, right?
Exactly.
There are comedians who are more storytellers. They have these like really long stories, and you don't get to the punchline until like 20, 30 minutes later sometimes. And then you have comedians who are just joke tellers. They just tell one or two line jokes all the way through. And and you're a truth teller. So is it I guess it's pretty much biographical then. Like if we just listen to your sets, we can understand everything about you.
Yeah, honestly, I have had friends who have like come to my shows and have been like, you tell all of these strangers in the audience more things about your life than you tell us. Like,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think those of us who have, who do things on stage, perform on stage, whether it's telling jokes or a musician or
yeah.
acting. Well, acting is a little different because, especially if you're going off of a script, then it's not really your story that you're telling, so that's a little
Hmm.
different. But yeah, but if you're a performer on stage and you're working with your own material, yeah, I think who you are, it inevitably comes through, right? In
Yeah.
one way or another. Yeah. Yeah, I would probably say almost all of my songs are biographical, I think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Yeah. Yeah, probably. Most of them.
Yeah. Like, for me, it's just because it's easier.
Well,
I'm like, write what I know, you know?
but that's where we start. So I kind of categorize comedians under the category of writer,
Hmm.
because you write your own material,
Yeah.
and if you're a singer songwriter, I also kind of categorize them under a writer too. But
Mhm.
it's a well known fact that writers, like their whole life is the material, right?
Yeah.
So if you're friends or family members of writers, be careful because you will end up in their material one way or another at some point.
We are watching you. We are listening to everything you say.
Yeah. By the way, I love your mic.
Thank you. It's a regular old Shure 58, one of those classics. I just have a
The
one of
little
those
foamy thing.
foam things on it because P's and T's.
That's right.
I don't want to salt your ear.
I actually have this, but I never use it. I have one of this thing. So
Ooh, a pop screen.
yeah, but it just became too much of an assembly thing to do this. So, I'm not gonna bother with it now. Maybe in future episode I'll use it. But
Yeah. Those are recommended to me, but I live in a tiny apartment with no place to have a setup. So
mhm.
I'm like, portable.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have this extension thing, so I could probably just attach it there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But so the first couple of episodes that I did, apparently I was, my mouth was way too close to the mic. And so when I
Mm.
was like processing the video, my my voice was like way high above my guest, and I'm like, okay, how do I adjust this? Yeah, I was going a little crazy. And now I noticed that on the mic there's this setting.
Hmm.
um I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I had it one way this entire time. So today I have it differently. So I'm gonna see if the sound quality changes
We'll
for
find
today.
out.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. It's kind of like figure it out as you go kind of thing.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So how's it going? How are you? Um,
Yes.
I wanted to give a pause for to give you a chance to respond before I just, because I have a tendency sometimes to ramble on.
Oh, no, no worries. How am I? Like, generally okay. I'm healthy. I have a place to live. I am living. I'm lucky enough to have been in this like whole COVID quarantine situation with my partner and a roommate. So I'm not like completely alone, losing my mind,
Mm.
which could have been totally possible. So yeah, I feel great about those things. Um, I also was lucky enough. So I had been freelance for most of my adult life.
Mm-hmm.
And right before all of this started, like in September of 2019, I like got a part-time job at an actual big theater company. So by the time that COVID hit and I got furloughed, as everybody in the performing arts did, I qualified for unemployment. So
Yay!
that was my like silver lining of wow, I worked exactly the right amount of hours at an actual institution for the first time in my life in preparation to get unemployment.
That
So, yeah.
yeah. It really helps. And and one of the conversations that's come up during this whole pandemic is universal basic income. That's come up.
Mhm.
That's now a thing.
Yeah.
That's now in common parlance. But
Yeah.
before that, I mean, UBI has been around a long time. I mean, I think who was the first president who brought it up? Was it Nixon or even before that? And I think Martin Luther King Jr. I think also brought it up in some form or another. So it's been around. Um, I think Nixon may have done a pilot program.
Mm.
But anyway, it's been around, but it hasn't um, come to sort of a national conversation until Andrew Yang brought it up during his
Yeah.
primary run, and then now the pandemic hits, and everyone is feeling the pinch. And so, hey, wouldn't it be nice if something like UBI was in place?
Yeah.
Then, then vast numbers of people would not be destitute. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And like that is one of the things that I just have been feeling so lucky about because in any other time of my life, if the pandemic had hit, I would have just been completely fucked. So that was kind of one of those like, wow,
Yeah.
the world works in mysterious ways. So yeah, that's kind of been the situation. You know, creatively, it's been a little hard because I really had this realization that like I just like performing live.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is the most important thing to my life. So when that became not possible, you know, I know so many comedians and like other people in the performing arts kind of made the shift towards digital programming and like making shows for Zoom and doing comedy shows on Zoom and Instagram Live and all these different platforms, which I'm like, yes, like you go find new ways to um, share your work and talent. But I just could not bring myself to where I was just like, and I went into this crisis where I started wondering, you know, does this mean that I don't want it as much? You know, does it mean that I don't care about or love doing comedy as much if I'm not willing to find a way to do it on a different platform other than live performing? So I like went through that whole rigmarole and I kind of got over myself eventually. Where I was just like, no, I just really like sharing space with other people and kind of reorienting my focus from being like, how can I keep doing stand up to how can I make work that aligns with the reasons I have done stand up and I still do and I want to do stand up has been really helpful. So, you know, I did do, or I still sometimes do Zoom shows or online shows if someone that I really like asks me to, because I'm like, yeah, anything you ask me to do, yes, I'll say yes to. But on my end, I haven't been like super proactive about like seeking out shows or producing shows, etc. And I have like at the beginning in March and April of last year, I did like a I don't even know. It's not a performance, but I made these instruction plays
Yes, I
which
saw them.
you
I
saw
saw.
them.
Yeah, yeah. You were posting them on Instagram and Facebook,
Yes,
right? Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I actually, yeah, good. Because I definitely wanted to ask you about that. So yeah, why don't you go into that?
Yeah, so that came about because I had, gone through that whole mental exercise that I was telling you about. And I really realized that the reason I have always been in the live performance space, comedy, theater, was because the experience of an interaction, of sharing time with someone, is something that was like a really big priority to me, which is why digital media didn't feel as right for me, because I just couldn't feel that kind of connection. Like, I don't find it enjoyable to see myself on my own screen. Like, I
No,
don't want to feel like I'm talking into a void. Um
you're not one of those who like practice in front of a mirror, kind of thing.
See, if I do practice my smiles in front of a mirror, it's for a hypothetical live audience,
That's there.
It's
You go.
but I can't. I'm like, all of that practice and work I've put in is being wasted on myself. So, yeah, like, I just couldn't find that exciting. I also I'm really impressed with, like, people who do live streams, who can, like, follow along with the chats and comments that they're getting, like, during the live stream.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, I when I was like putting this podcast together, I was debating whether or not to do a live stream and have audience participation, and I realized like I'm not gonna be able to like
Yeah.
manage all those things.
Like, I just can't figure out that balance where it's like,
Yeah.
am I gonna just barrel on through and keep talking about what I want to talk about, or like, am I gonna address all of the things that people are talking to me about? So I just was like, none of this really makes sense to me. Then how can I make something that can make the kinds of interaction that I like about theater and comedy and live performance possible when we can't be in a space together, right? So then I was also going through this like really intense Yoko Ono phase before the pandemic. uh, like, all of 2019, I got really obsessed with the idea of her existence and the amount of disrespect and ridicule that she experienced,
Mm.
that people like to say that is related to the Beatles, but is actually just racism and misogyny. And that kind of like mental dissonance that people have in discussing Yoko Ono was really, really interesting to me. So I had gone through this phase where I had like read all of her work, listened to everything that she made, like biographies, etc. And I had gotten really familiar with her work as well. And one of her most famous pieces is this book called Grapefruit, where does where she gives instruction poems. So they're like little poems that are like, go do this. And they're really lovely. And I was like, that is a really cool concept. Um, because for her, she made them like, all of her instructions are quite absurd,
Mm.
where she'll be like, go to a lake with a moon reflected on it, get a bucket and um, get the moon in the bucket.
Ah, it's actually very poetic.
Yes, exactly. They're
Yeah,
very
hence the
poetic.
poem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the reasons she says she made those instruction pieces were because she wanted people to question, like, what is possible, and like kind of think outside the box in terms of how one could perceive things and how one could perceive interacting with an environment. So,
Yeah,
mhm,
I'm not too familiar with her work, but the few different pieces of her work that I've encountered always seemed to me she was always pushing that envelope,
exactly.
and very avant-garde-ish. Yeah, I didn't always get it. There was this one song where it seemed like she was just kind of screaming, and
Yes.
yeah,
Um,
and I'm
why?
like,
Why?
I
She has a song called Why
oh,
where
is that
she just screams and sings why many, many times.
okay? Yeah, I don't remember if it was that song or if it was some other song, but that just on that, I was like, okay, I don't really get it, but anyway, but I think she's also an artist too, right?
Yes,
Or a
yes.
sculpture or
She I think she's like
sculptor.
mostly understood as like a conceptual
Yeah.
artist.
Okay.
Um so okay. So her thing was like I'm going to write about things that are perceived as impossible to make you wonder what is possible versus impossible and like change your perception of that, right? And I had been feeling during the beginning of the pandemic and the lockdown that so much of the conversation was surrounding the impossible, um, especially in the live performance scene that I am familiar with, where everybody was like, well, we can't do this because we would require a theater. We can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And then it like seeps into everything else, where it's like, well, we can't eat food with our friends. We can't blah, blah, blah. And so much of the conversation had been surrounding like what we can't do, what is not possible, blah. So that kind of just like merged together for me in this way where I was like, oh, I'm going to make instruction pieces that are based on things that people can do right now with somebody over the phone to just like think about we are spending all this time thinking about what we can't do. So let's just start with some silly shit that we can. And that was kind of my motivation. So I wrote 30 different instruction poems that, I just put out there. Some of them I sent specifically to my friends as well, just being like, hey, you are a person that I like doing things with. And this is something that I made for people to do things with. Um, and it was really cool. You can check them out on my Instagram feed. They're still there. I can read a couple.
Actually, why don't we share it on screen?
Ooh.
Hold on.
Let me
Share. There's no sound to them, right? Because they're just
No, 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 yeah.
okay. All right. We'll talk about this later.
That's me.
uh, what's your Instagram handle
Mm,
again?
it's Nyanchate
Yeah, there you go.
NY17. So fancy.
Yeah, 30.
Yeah.
Any
So
particular
here they
one you want
are.
to share?
Um, let's see. Any of them work? Yeah. So I do like this is play 21. Take a walk. Spell someone's name with your path. When you get home, let them know that they're on your mind. And well, first of all, I had hoped and anticipated that the pandemic would be not over, but our lives wouldn't be in lockdown for a whole year. So
Yeah.
that's why I only wrote 30, first of all.
Ah, okay, got it.
And uh, each one of these poems are either with another person to like create that kind of interaction in space, or intended to just like take note of the people you miss and think about them and then make sure to share that. So, yeah.
These are lovely.
Thank
I
you.
remember when it started appearing on my stream, and I did take a notice of it. But I don't think I actually followed through on any of them because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. Wait, am I supposed to do something and then let her know, or so I was? I think, and on some of them, I was like looking at your comments too, or other people's comments on your post to see what other people were doing. Um,
Yeah. The my main intention for them was that like do with them what you will. It I just wanted them to exist for anyone who was at a loss, cuz I also had a lot of friends who were just like I don't know what to do with myself
hmm,
anymore or right now because all of the plans that I had for this year have gotten canceled.
out the window. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of just like this is here for you. You know, if any of these things, either just like if reading it, like there are some that some people were just like that instruction made me laugh, like that's great too. You know, if any of them made you go I want to do that, cool. I also had some friends like actually film themselves doing the pieces and then sending them to me, and that really filled
Nice.
me with joy. And that was kind of this like same kind of interaction that um, that I thought was unique to this, that I wouldn't have been able to experience if I was doing like a Zoom stand-up show or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really nice. Um, if maybe if enough people sent in videos to you, maybe it could be a compilation of some sort. I don't know. I mean, these are your
Yeah,
friends sending it to you, so maybe they don't want to be like displayed. But this is kind of cool too. Put your essential items in a suitcase. Take the suitcase for a walk around the block. Walk back into your home or wherever you're staying. And A, unpack like you just got to your vacation destination, or B, unpack like you just got back home from a vacation. Call a friend and tell them about this vacation. That's really nice.
thank you. Yeah, you know, especially because now we the biggest thing that people are saying is we can't travel, but we can always travel in our heads, in our hearts. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sometimes I need to because I don't know if you could hear the siren,
Oh yeah.
but it's just this is New York. It's so
It
noisy.
happens. We are in New York City.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I put myself on mute sometimes while you're talking. But well, it's in the recording now, so whatever.
We
Yeah.
all know.
So you thought the pandemic was gonna end soon. This is why you only did 30 of them. So,
Yeah, well,
um,
it was the hope. You know, we were all hoping.
any intention of continuing this, or maybe doing like a variation of this?
Yeah, maybe I think about it from time to time. And I also, like, it was just one of those things that when the idea came to me, it was so intense
Hmm.
and impulsive. And I, like, cranked them out in an evening, in a sitting, because I was just like I need to do this right now to feel sane about what's happening in my life and all my friends' life, our lives. So there was that urgency in that moment for me to create that piece. And sometimes because the way it was created and then like disseminated just on my Instagram, that like has a following of mostly my friends.
Hmm.
And sometimes like, was there a better way for me to go about it to like spread it? So when it was happening, like more people would have had access to it. I don't know what the answer to that is, because there's a time I was lucky enough to have a call with one of my like favorite theater critics, Jose Solis, and when I told him about this piece, he was like, "That sounds awesome. Why hadn't I heard about it?" And I was like, "Damn it." No.
Well, it's not too late, right?
Of
I mean,
course.
yeah, yeah. It's not like it has an expiration date or anything.
Yes, yes, it's
Yeah.
still here. But I think because the world is always so focused on what's happening right now, etc. And again, because like I don't know if my personal Instagram page was the most appropriate platform to disseminate that on. So
Hmm.
I like keep coming back to it. But there's also part of me that's like, that piece kind of existed in that time frame.
Yes. There's meaning. There's meaning there because it was also what you were going through. So that's
Yeah.
part of that. And what you were going through, everyone was going through. I think in the early days of the lockdown, I think there was a lot of solidarity, um,
Yeah.
feeling of solidarity that we're all in this together. Now I think that sentiment is very quite diffused. Everyone is feeling something different
Yeah.
and angry about different things or frustrated or have all but given up or or just kind of numb to what's going on and it's like well c'est la vie kind of thing. Yeah, I definitely went through a roller coaster myself, but
Oh yeah.
yeah. In the beginning I was actually fine.
Yeah.
I was perfectly fine and it was uh because as a freelancer I was just working mainly from home anyway.
Hmm.
And then I also didn't think it was gonna last this long, and so uh, but the longer it lasted, it was the long it became more clear like um, all my freelance clients were not gonna call me for jobs because it many of the repeat jobs depended on me being on location at
Yeah.
various events. But yeah, so there, whatever. And I do music and I had scheduled a live stream event in May.
Hmm.
So in the beginning of the lockdown, I was working toward that, and so there was something I was looking forward to. And then once that was over, that kind of, when that was over, that kind of hit me hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I didn't schedule anything else, and I didn't feel like I wanted to do another one the same year because I felt like, well, you know, why would I want to do it again with the same material?
Yeah. Yeah. That whole feeling of no longer having
Yeah,
anything to look forward to,
yeah.
really weird.
No, it's terrible. And I did get distracted with something else. And so I was
Hmm.
working on that, but it wasn't anything creative. And when that didn't work out, that actually uh kicked me even harder.
No.
Oh yeah, I'm laughing about it now, but yeah, so the second half of last year was terrible, terrible for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I think when you did the music live stream, and felt this way about like all of the different types of performances that adapted onto the digital sphere. I, you know, I, I am a strong believer in trying things and consuming things like content, whether I think I'm gonna like it or not, just to experience everything once and then make a decision, because I don't like hating things that I don't know about. But or So I, like, during the first few months, I was watching a lot of like Zoom shows, live stream, comedy shows, etc. And until I hit my wall of Zoom fatigue. But I really felt in that time that music translated to the digital space so much better than any other type of live performance. So I actually started making music during the pandemic, and I've kind of taken a pause from that too, because in the end of 2020, oh my god, at the end of 2020, I'm like, the years are blurring together. At the end of 2020, I did also create a solo show for Zoom that we can talk about later. So I got distracted by that. But over the summer of 2020, I was like, I'm going to learn how to make music, because clearly this is the only way that I'm going to be able to survive this digital sphere, because I don't like telling jokes to a camera.
Yeah.
Um, so that was like a phase that I went
No,
through.
that's awesome. And you and I we talked about this before, that in some way there's a lot of crossover between comedians and musicians.
Yeah.
Particularly singer-songwriters, I think, or maybe not. Maybe it's just musicians in general. Like, I feel like a lot of musicians are comedian wannabes, and a lot of comedians are
Comedians are
musician
musician wannabes.
wannabes.
For sure. That is 100%.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, back in my days of improv, when I was taking a lot of improv classes, I did
Yeah.
take one class that was for stand up,
Mm.
and we were supposed to you know so the instructor had each of us go up and tell whatever story, and then from there he'll sort of pick up on things and like, okay, I like that concept, why don't you expand on that, and that's going to be your material.
Mm-hmm.
So he did that with each of us, and he picked up on something, so I wrote it out, and then as we wrote it out, and then we perform it, and we keep refining it until at the end of the class we did a class show. And I mean, the more I did it, the worse I got.
Oh.
Your material is supposed to get better, right?
Uh-huh.
And tighter. But I just felt like the first time I did it, because I think I'm much more of an improv person than a
Mm-hmm.
stand up person. I think stand up, you have to like keep fine tuning your material over and over and over again. Um, but for some reason, that repetitious process just doesn't work for me in terms of like telling jokes or trying to be funny. I think there's a little voice in my head that's not funny. That says it's not funny. It
That's
was
not
funnier.
funny.
It's not. It was funnier before.
So you like get in your way
I
because you
I
start like thinking too hard about all of the
I probably do, and
jokes.
this is why improv is like, is improv. You're in the moment, right? And you're also not alone. There's a scene partner, and so you're
Mm-hmm.
responding to each other, and so that kind of works for me. But of course, like, music is different. Music, I
Hmm.
do spend a lot of time refining it, and also performing, I do it over and over and over again,
Yeah.
and that's something I had to get used to also. Yeah. So yeah, your music. So is it just music, or is it songs?
Yeah. Well, it's songs, I guess. So this I am still in the process of figuring out like what even my relationship to music is still. I just know that it's something that I want to pursue. But that's it. I did grow up playing piano and violin, so I like understand notes and
Mm-hmm.
music theory or whatever. So I kind of started with that base being like, okay, I'm gonna like get a MIDI keyboard because it looks like a piano, and then like play around with it on GarageBand and different DAWs. Uh, Turns out not as one for one as piano and MIDI keyboard. So that was like a huge learning curve, but it was really fun. And I've still been playing around with trying to like produce tracks. Uh, but then I was like, hold on. I want to be like a punk rock.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
I was like, that's my destiny. Like, this electronic stuff is fun, but I'm not feeling it in my body. And then same with like piano. I was like, it all sounds too pretty. Like I want to like thrash around on a guitar. I don't know how to play guitar. So I got like a really cheap guitar, and I've been teaching myself how to play guitar. Still not anywhere near being able to be a punk rock person on it, but that's kind of been my other journey of just slowly teaching myself guitar. The the big gap I think is that like I like you said, I identify most as a writer. So I can like write lyrics. I'll write lyrics and then I'll just be like, so what do I do with this?
It'll come to you. Just keep working at it. Because
Okay.
I started out as a poet. So I started writing
Hmm.
poems since on a regular basis since high school. So that's when I
Hmm.
started writing. And I kept it up through my adulthood. And in 2003,
Yeah.
February or March? February 2003, I wrote a poem. And I used to tell the story completely incorrect. I used to say, I wrote a poem and I hated it, so I decided to turn it into song lyrics and see if that worked. That's actually not true because after years of telling that story, I went
Hmm.
back to my original notes because this is when I used to actually write notes and stuff.
Hmm.
And and in my notes it said, "Hey, I really like this poem. I wonder if I could turn it into a song." So it's
That's
not that
great.
I hated the poem, therefore I wrote a song. It's because I liked it so much. So the difference there is I didn't stumble onto songwriting. There was intention behind it.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's a huge difference, I think. But anyway, why did I get into this? Oh yes, after so the first song I just wrote the lyrics and I gave it to a friend and he's the one who set it to music.
Mm.
And after he did that, uh I didn't actually want him to do that, but he did it to surprise me.
Yeah.
And so I had to write another song all by myself without telling him. So, like I want to be able to see if I could do this on my own,
Yeah.
both uh, lyrics and music. And so I actually did that almost immediately. But then after that, 4 years went by and I wrote absolutely nothing.
Hmm.
Um, and then once it started coming back, then I just kept writing on a regular basis. So yeah, so long story just to say, keep doing it because I
Okay.
think at some point it'll come to you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, even the words have the words itself has a certain cadence to it.
Hmm.
So when you say it out loud, there's a certain rhythm and cadence, and even like inflection. So there's pitch.
Yeah.
So sometimes like that also kind of helps it become music as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think like I the music making friends of my life are more um like music making oriented
Right,
than our lyricists.
right.
So then like I'll be talking to them and they'll be like, "Yeah, you like play around with the notes and then the words come to you." And I'm like, no." That is not how my brain works.
No, but I think yeah, my genesis is similar to yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a lyricist first. So like my early songs, I definitely had the lyrics down first. It wasn't until after years of doing that, that actually started writing music. So like the music came first. So one of the songs that it will be in my second album. Actually, I wrote the music for that years ago, like back in 2012, and
Wow.
I didn't have the lyrics for it until early last year, so 2020.
Mm.
Yeah, so 2020, I wrote the song, just with the lyrics, and I'm like, I need some really good music for it, and then I sort of went back to my um, uh, the different music pieces that I wrote
Hmm.
with no lyrics, and I'm like, that one, that's it, that's the perfect one. That,
Yeah.
like, yeah, and it just came together. Yeah,
I that's a lot of the times how I write my jokes, or like how my jokes expand into bigger jokes, where I'll cuz ultimately I'm like they're all coming from the same file cabinet, you know? So they're somehow intertwined and related. Like they're
yeah,
all things that I'm trying to express that come out in different ways. So I'll like I'll usually the way my joke starts is that I like get really obsessed with like a thought, and I just like can't stop thinking about it, whether it's like why did that person talk to me like that, or like why do I keep thinking about Cabbage Patch Kids, um and I'll just like think about it for a long time, and then eventually I'm like, god, I'm so obsessed with this thought, like it's clearly a bit, and I'll start unpacking it, and sometimes like from there it'll just like be its own bit, because I'll be like, oh, jokes clearly, but other times I will have like an idea that I know is a joke,
mm-hmm.
but I like don't know where it fits in, or like how it can be a bigger bit, and then I'll like go back to like other longer bits I'm doing, or like bits that I know that I really like, so I want to keep expanding on, like adding tags, and then like like you were just saying with the songs, I'll like go through my Rolodex and then be like,
Yeah,
oh, this thought that I'm really obsessed with is like connected to the genesis of this bit, which means that they are part of the same bigger joke.
mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I have one-liners, titles,
Mhm.
concepts, and also if it's a melody. So when I write music, it's basically melody and chords, and that's it.
Mhm.
Like I don't go beyond that. My music ability is not beyond that. But I'll actually do a voice message, and keep it that way. Um, so yeah, so actually, it's a bit scattered all over the place, and so
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of struggling to keep it all together and categorized. But right now, it's kind of all over the place, which drives me a little up the wall. But
Yeah, I mean, my joke notes are everywhere, like in all these different notebooks, in margins of things, backs of receipts. And sometimes I'll be like cleaning out my room and I'll be like, what is this scrap of paper doing here? Like it's
yeah,
so nasty. And then I'll like turn it around and it'll have like a really stupid line on it. And I'll be like, okay, someone, me, thought this was worth keeping. Uh,
but don't throw
so
it away.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, don't throw
And
any
they
of that
keep
away.
getting kept.
Yeah,
So
exactly. At some point, that could be a whole exhibit. All of your stupid notes.
yes, yes. I am always preparing for my retrospective.
Yeah. It's so my first album was is wasn't intended to be an album. So I had been writing after about 15 years of writing songs. Jody, the producer I work with, he was finally like, "Hey," and at that time I had only been working with him actively for maybe a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I've known him longer than that, but at the time I was only working with him for like a couple of years, and he's like, "Hey, JJ, I think it's time that you set some sort of a goal, like
Mm.
put out an album, do a show or something. You know, you're welcome to just keep coming here." And we can work on this song or that song, but I think it'll be good for you to have a goal, and that's how um, my album kind of came about. So we just picked like the top 12 songs of the ones that I already had written, and then compiled it. So it's really more of a compilation. But when we were kicking around the idea, he threw out the word at some point, the word retrospective. And I'm thinking, my first album cannot be a retrospective. I,
Yes.
I haven't even started it yet.
You're like, I'm not about to die.
Oh no, well, it doesn't have to be when you're at your deathbed, but like I'm just beginning
Yeah.
the process of like becoming a singer-songwriter, at least in the public sense, that the idea of a retrospective was just seemed didn't fit. um but yeah, that's so cool. So I think we kind of touched on it, like what's your process, and you kind of touched on some aspects of it. So I don't know if you have like a more expanded answer in terms of what your process is like.
Yeah. It it depends on the body of work. Because so I like do stand up primarily, but like I said at the big top, I my background is in theaters. So I also do uh solo shows that
Mm-hmm.
are a little different from stand up shows.
Okay.
Um
I like
and
how are they different?
like stand up is like priority is jokes, where I'm just here to tell you jokes about things that I'm thinking about recently. And when I do solo shows, yeah, of course, like they're funny, but the main point is to tell like a thorough line with a theme. And so it's like less focus on like set up punchline. But
I see.
yeah,
Okay. So they're different structurally.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Structurally different. And again, the process is
Hmm.
pretty different. I So when I do stand up, it is like I don't even know how to explain it. Okay, I'm gonna
I
start by
think I think
saying,
that movement itself, I think, explained it right there. I think that just
yeah,
kind of encapsulates it.
that is my vibe. I will start by saying that I had been doing theater for a really long time, and um, had just like always known or like believed that I was going to be some sort of performer before I started doing stand up. So I was like I said earlier, I did piano and like violin, and I danced and I did theater and like all these things. And I was like, I'm going to be an actor, a performer. But, and then I went to school for theater, realized that the theater industry way more racist and just like
Huh.
boring, like lame, so much more lame than I wanted it to be. So I was just like, okay, like I now get it. Like I see what it's about, and like I still care. I love theater. I am a huge theater nerd, and a lot of people when I talk about theater and like I talk about plays, they think that I hate it because I'm always like shit talking it, but it is because I love it and I believe that it can be so much more than it is now.
Hmm.
So I really, really love theater. But I was just like, I need to be a more active participant in like the process of creation. Because before I had just believed that I was going to be an actor and I wanted to act. And then I was like, I don't believe anything that I'm saying. Like in terms of the lines, the scripts that I was working with, etc. Where I was just like, this isn't speaking to me. And like, I don't, someone might say that is my like weakness as an actor, that I'm not
Right,
like doing
exactly.
enough
Because, yeah, you
like
don't.
script work or whatever.
Right, exactly. Because as an actor, the actor's job is not for you to believe it, but to make the audience believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was like, I don't believe it, and therefore don't think that I can make the audience believe it, because then
Right.
it's not my like truth.
Yeah.
And then I, long story short, I went on
No,
like a
wait. No.
driving retreat. No, no, no.
Tell
This is the
tell it the
shorter
long
part of the
way.
long story.
No,
Okay,
no,
okay.
tell it the long way. We have
Okay,
time.
okay. So junior year of college, I went to this like driving camp. So in Japan, we have this like whole very efficient system where you can go somewhere and you stay like in a dorm for like a month and you get your driver's license, where you just spend all day and all night like learning about driving, and then
Wow.
you have your license. Yeah. So I was sent to this driving camp, and like the one that I went to was on this tiny island with nothing but onion fields. Like every like afternoon around 2 or 3 p.m., I think it was just like the way the wind blows, but it just smelled like onion soup everywhere. So this is the scene that I'm setting. I went there in May for the month. In Japan, summer vacation for like school doesn't start until July. So no one was there other than me
Mm.
and the instructors. And there was one other girl, but she was also just like, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to drive. So I was so bored. I like, other than the times where I was in driving class, there was nowhere to go, nothing to do, no one to talk to. And I was just like losing my mind out of boredom. And to this camp, I had brought this book called Sick in the Head by Judd Apatow that I had won at a trivia night. I just like, it was a trivia night at a bookstore. When you win, they give you a book for free. I got that book and I was like, I haven't read it yet. I'll bring it to this driving camp. And the book is like a series of interviews with various comedians
Mm.
that Judd Apatow had done. So while reading it, like after every comedian, I got really curious about their work, because they'll just talk about their processes, right? And like their relationship to comedy, but it's not like they're going to give you a sample of their jokes. So I became curious about like, okay, so what kind of jokes will a person like this tell? So then I like just, I guess I gave myself a masterclass because I would read one interview and then I would listen to that person's album. And then I would read the next interview and I would listen to that person's album. And there's like, I don't know, 20 comics in
Mm-hmm.
this book, and like ranging generations. So I just like was like, okay, I get it. I understand how stand up works now. Like, of course, ignorance is bliss and arrogance.
Well,
So,
you got the concept, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I was like, I get it. And I started writing jokes for myself because I had time.
Wait, so how old were you at this point?
So I had just turned 21.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually turned 21 at this driving camp island, and I was so upset and sad because I was like, isn't this supposed to be a special birthday? And I'm here alone, just surrounded by onions.
Wait, is 21 special even in Japan? I know 21 is here in the
Yeah,
US.
well, 20 is the special one in Japan, but I grew up in the US, so
Okay, yeah.
I was always just like, 21 is the birthday. And like all of my friends in America like will text me, but I'm like, you're all an ocean away.
I'm
So,
surrounded by onions.
and I am surrounded by onion fields. So, yeah, so I had just turned 21. And okay. I'm like, it's really windy, but the way my university worked is that we had this thing called the co-op program where students can take semesters off of school and instead work full time at different internships. And my school was in Boston, but I always knew that I wanted to live in New York. I was like, I am a city person. I will live in New York. No one can stop me. So I had just applied to a bunch of co ops in New York, did not care what they were for, as long as they were in New York and that they paid me, because I was like, I can't live in New York on an unpaid internship. So I got an internship in New York, and again, it really, really sucked. I hated that internship because it was a 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. And guess what? They paid me $800 a month. Okay. That is abuse.
Wow, that's yeah, was this what in the 90s?
This was in
2000. Okay.
2013.
All right. Wow. What?
Wait,
Okay,
no, no,
you're
no, no, no. I'm not that old. This was in 2016. This was in 2016.
okay, you're a lot younger than me. 2016. That was just 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like half my age, I think. I don't know.
But yeah, so in 2016, I got an internship in New York that was just like absolutely bull, and I really hated it. So I was just like, I need to go somewhere to blow off all this rage that I have for being made to work full time, being paid so little. And then I was like, wait a second. I have been telling myself I'm gonna try stand up because I wrote all these jokes over the summer at my onion fields. So I went to an open mic. I was like, where better to start doing stand up than in New York?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Open mics, yeah.
Yep. So I went to an open mic and I did my first set, and I was like, this is what I was put on earth to do.
Wow.
Like, it sounds really grandiose. it sounds really grandiose and arrogant, but it was just one of those things where, like I said earlier, I had always believed that I was going to be a performer, but I had tried all of these different types of performances, and I was always like, okay, I get it. This is fun. I do it. But doing stand-up was the first time I was like, okay, this makes more sense to me than anything that I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Like, it just made sense. And this is why I say that probably my joke writing process is not like clear cut or helpful because like I have just been like, this makes so much sense to me, and this is how I do it, where like I will talk about my joke writing process, but sometimes I think about how like in high school I was not good at math. or like I didn't care about it that much. So, and I had a teacher who was like really, really smart, clearly. Like she was so intelligent and brilliant. And she would explain things and then be like, yeah, this is how calculus works. And I'll be like, the? How did that number turn into a different number? Why are there letters? Like, but she was just like, of course all of this makes sense. It's math, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes when I talk about the way I write jokes, people are like, but you didn't tell me how a joke is a joke.
Yeah. I don't know that I can exactly describe my process either, other than these are some of the things that I do.
Yes,
And then
exactly.
somehow at the end of it comes this song.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it comes from. Yeah.
I'm like, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes these combinations of words I just know sound really funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the way I came to stand up and the way I still do stand up, where it's really like I'm just on when I am in the zone of making and telling jokes in a live space.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels good, and like following those impulses of like, this feels good and I'm going to keep like pursuing that feeling in this
Mm-hmm.
moment will usually lead me to like a tag or a joke. And I also have to mention that I am a little bit of cheater because um my family is from a region in Japan that is very famous for creating comedians.
Okay.
And my dad writes is a comedy writer in Japan. So
Okay.
I grew up surrounded by
Yeah.
comedy. Like
Yeah.
my parents talk in bits. Like
Yeah. Okay.
the way we
Yeah.
communicate is jokes. So that is definitely another aspect of it.
Well, I wouldn't call that cheating. I would call that just that's how you were nurtured. So that's part of your environment.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, there. I mean, environment has huge influences. It wasn't until like I actually started writing songs, I found out that my father used to arrange music in the church choir.
Mm.
So yeah, and I didn't know that. And when I found out, he had already passed away many years before that.
Wow.
So it wasn't like I could then, asking him about it. But but it's just that little bit of information. And my mother, always liked to sing and stuff. But for me, it's not. It's more about the creating of songs, not so much the singing. I'm not really that good of a singer, not really.
I think anyone, yeah, you are
No,
great.
no. Because it's like the singer songwriter. I call myself a singer songwriter. The singer part is only because I sing my own songs, and really that's all I can do. I can sing my own songs. I can't really sing other people's songs.
And that's what matters, because they're your songs. You're going to
Yeah.
sing them the way they're meant to be sung, which is how you sing them.
Right, exactly. But
Yeah.
yeah, so but I think that does have a huge influence. Is what we're surrounded by
Yeah.
definitely influences us. So
Yeah.
it's not like your parents sort of pushed you in that
No.
direction.
No. In fact, they were like, why? They were like, damn it, we messed up.
We shouldn't have been bantering in front of her.
Yeah. Why is funny, so natural to our child. We should have taught her to be serious. Yeah, because like that was always my vibe, you know. Like
Yeah.
I was always an inappropriate laugher. Like I,
Like laughing at funerals inappropriate.
yeah, like yeah,
Yeah.
you know, as a kid, things like silence or just the idea that everybody in a room just decided that they were all going to be quiet together
Uh-huh.
was so weird and funny to me. So like I would be laughing at like math tutoring and like class. I just like crack up in like when things were not funny, but like they were really funny to me. Um
Like
always just
like spontaneously laughing in the middle of class. Like
yes.
that? Okay.
Yeah. Cuz like
No, I totally get it.
I think I was just like I just like to have fun, which sounds really stupid, but I think I have always looked for like the funniest thing in a space. Like
Yeah.
that's how I entertain myself, or like even focus on a situation because I'll be like, oh, um, you know, in a class I'll be sitting there and I'll like I can't even think of like a good example, but I'll see a kid like sitting in a row where like the way his ankles are like situated look really weird.
Right, right.
And then I just like won't be able to stop thinking about it. So like I'll crack up. Um
Now, so when you're laughing, are you laughing at that or are you laughing at something like does your mind then associate that like sort of free association and it wanders and it lands at somewhere that's funny? Or is it that thing itself that you're laughing at?
it depends. I think it usually is more like it's less that thing itself, but like all of the things that shoot out of it where
Right.
it like might not just be like association, but I'll be like, doesn't it hurt? Like, why can this kid look like he's focusing on like whatever the teacher's saying when his ankles are bent like that? And then I'll think about how I'm thinking about that. Like those kinds of like thought loops usually make me laugh. And like that's still true today where it's like the sudden objectivity
Yeah.
from like a specific emotion or experience is what's like really funny to me, which is like why it's again like how I cope with emotions or experiences because like
Yeah.
I'll be like really really angry about something
Yeah.
and then I'll be like it's kind of funny
Funny.
that
Yeah.
I'm like really mad about it.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, I'm someone who believes that everything, literally everything, can be funny.
Yes,
There
yes.
is absolutely nothing that you cannot make a joke about. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
even the most horrible thing. I mean, of course,
Yes.
it has to be done well. Otherwise, it's just a crude joke or poor taste. But you know, the most horrible thing you could think of, you could make a joke about it. You know,
I
there's yeah,
agree.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's yeah, I just think every like there's no reason not to find things funny. Like
right.
I'm always really confused when people are really serious. I'm just like, but why? You know, like there's no point in being that serious. Like I get
Well,
it. You know, we all need to like focus sometimes, but there's a way.
yeah.
Like I'll crack jokes during interviews and then realize that it was not the thing that they were looking for. I remember there was this one time that I had an interview for a job that I was like, I would love this job. And it was for like a TV network, I guess. And during the interview, they asked the classic question of like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I hate that
And I
question.
was like,
Yeah.
yeah, first of all, I don't know. Okay. We didn't even know COVID was going to happen in the next
Yeah.
5 years. But I looked at the person interviewing me straight in the eye and I was like, famous. Clearly, that is a joke. Like, is there truth in a joke? Yeah, there's
Yeah.
truth in every joke. But also, like, I didn't mean it like that. But, we're here. I'm interviewing for a position at like a TV network. It's because I'm interested in making TV shows.
As a comedy writer, or
Yeah, yeah.
see, I think in that setting you could. I think it's perfectly appropriate to make jokes. I don't know.
Exactly. That was my other thinking, where I was like,
Yeah. Now, if you were applying for a position at a bank, that's different.
yeah.
Then maybe you shouldn't joke.
And it will make
Although
me
I
joke
have.
even more.
Right, exactly. I think I can probably say this, and it's probably true. Like, the more guardrails there are for you around you, you probably want to just break through them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm like, I want to tickle you. I want to
Yeah.
know what you look like when you laugh. Um, but
That must get you into trouble a lot, though. Yeah. The whole personal space thing.
I think, well, not physically tickle. I'm
Oh,
not a huge
I
fan.
made that mistake.
Yeah, no, I want to tickle people emotionally, but that will also get me in trouble, or just like awkwardness, because people would just be like, why would you say that? I mean, it's funny.
I remember I was how old was I? 13, 14 or something like that. It was like early teens. So, and I was in a we were all in a van, a church van full of people. We were going somewhere, I don't know. I think it must have been the winter, because they were pumping heat in the van. And at some point, oh, and in the winter, when it's heated inside, then the windows fog up, right? So it gets like nice and frosty and everything. And I was thinking about that, and all of a sudden I started laughing, and the person next to me, she was a little older than me, asked, "Oh, what's so funny?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just thought of something funny." "Oh, yeah, tell me, what is it?" And I'm like, "I don't think you'll understand." And so but she insisted, so I told her, and this is where my head was. Um, we were all in this car, a bunch of us, and heat was pumping through, and it was steaming the window, and I was thinking, oh, it's steaming, so it's almost like we are being steamed, and it's like we're in this metal container being steamed, kind of like, when you can stuff, like food, right? So it went from there, and I just was thinking like, oh, steamed people, yeah, you can find that in the grocery aisle or something like that. So that's kind of like where my head was. So
Yeah.
I was trying to explain that to her, and she just didn't get it. She's like, what, steamed people, what does that mean? Like steamed vegetables that you get, like, at a grocery store.
Yeah.
Like, well, what does that have anything to do with us? And I'm like, oh, forget it.
Like, sorry, this high concept art is just not for you. Yeah. No, sometimes it's because it's always the dumbest stuff, especially in life,
Yeah.
where like in college we had a professor who wore tights every day of the year, and she wore like navy and dark gray tights during the fall and the winter, but then she would start wearing white tights when it became spring or like
Ah.
warmer.
Wow.
And
Like clockwork. Yeah? Like that?
yes,
Wow.
yes. And I
That's
just
funny.
found that so funny that like I was taking her class during the spring. So it was like from January to May, right?
Yeah.
So like in the middle of the semester, she switched to white tights and literally like and I was sitting like at the seat that like directly faced her so I could see her legs. And I just like sat down and I noticed her tights were white and I like lost my mind. I just couldn't stop laughing. And my friend who was sitting next to me, like we shared that humor. So she was also laughing. and and the professor, but we were like trying really hard
Not to laugh.
not to laugh.
That's worse.
So like the two of us were just like like coughing and like sneezing in the back. There was just like no way to explain that like her tights are white today. I was like, so what?
I remember at some point when I was little, I would actually, I think I planned out what I would wear for the week, and I would wear the same thing. Like, so every Monday I wore one outfit, every Tuesday I
Mm.
wore another. I think I did that for a while. I don't know how old I was. I think it was preteen when
Mm-hmm.
I did this. And yeah, so if you only saw me on Tuesdays,
It
you
looked
would
like you
think
never changed clothes.
exactly. I don't think that lasted very long. I think I only did it for a few months or something. But your tight story actually reminded me of that. Now I just
Yeah,
wear all black, so I don't have to think about it. It's just
it's a good move. Yeah, my
yeah,
my roommate in college is that way. She all black,
yeah.
all
I don't
black
want
all
to
the
have to
time.
think about it. Although there are different degrees of black too, you know. So then what you have is so you're not focusing on color. So you know if it's all black, it always matches. But then there are different materials, different
Yeah,
cuts, different styles, like
textures,
different
shade.
textures. Yeah, yeah. So there's that. So there is some thought put into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So so that was so it was at the driving camp. That's
Hmm.
when you realized that this is what you want to do. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, when I did my first, like when I tried it for real for this first time,
That's right.
in New
That's right.
York, that's when
Okay.
it like really hit me. At driving camp, I was just like, I need something to do, and of course, like I was kind of going into that mindset of uh in theater. I I knew that I wanted to like write and create more than just be an actor because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, if there are no roles that are written for people like me, then I guess I have to write that. And I did notice that whenever I would try to write plays, they would mostly be jokes. So then when I like was at driving camp, I was like, oh, I guess like just focusing on writing jokes instead of trying to turn them into a play is an option that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually doing stand up when I got back to the US was just like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Judd Apatow is one prime example where you know he does stand up, but he also writes a whole bunch of screenplays and
mhm,
shows. I mean, that's kind of he's more known for that, more for
yeah,
the writing part than his stand up. Yeah,
totally.
yeah. So there are definitely like different things that you could do, but I think from at least from what I heard you say today, it's really the stand-up itself, that experience, being on stage, telling jokes in front of a live audience. That's the thing that you love the most.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And I I do write screenplays. I if like I'm like if anybody is funding things right now, I have pilots, I have web series, I have scripts going on, but I have said this for a really long time and still maintain that I do I am really interested in creating works for television so as to be able to fund any live performance that I want to do. Because
Okay.
live performance is fun, does not pay a lot. Um, so I'm
Yeah.
always like, I want that TV money so then I can be unstoppable in the live performance world.
Yeah. Uh, what's her name? Bamford.
Maria Bamford,
Yes.
oh
Yes. Do you know
my
her
god,
story? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I love Maria Bamford. Like one of the biggest papers I wrote in college was about her TV show Lady Dynamite.
Yeah.
I love Maria Bamford. She's
Which,
like,
do you know the story behind that? How that got started? So she was in, she was in LA doing her
mm-hmm,
stuff. She was doing stand up and she was having bit parts in the show and that show
yeah,
and that sort of thing. And then at some point she had a nervous breakdown.
yeah,
She totally collapsed, and then so she decided to just go home. And so while she was home, she created these like videos. Just she created different characters and put it on YouTube. You could probably look for it on YouTube. It's there. She just kept doing it while she was convalescing, recovering from her breakdown.
yeah,
And then Netflix uh, saw it and decided to, it's like, hey, we would love to give you a show, based on these things. And so yeah, so I think the show itself, Lady Dynamite, is loosely based on that experience.
mm, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, hey, so what you need is a breakdown, nervous breakdown.
Oh, I have many of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I once, a long time ago, um, this is like mid 2000s, I was really into like self improvement, self development, that sort of thing,
Mm,
self help, stuff. And so there were these like um, training courses and things. And one of them, the the trainer, I don't remember anything else that he said except for this one thing. That was my takeaway, is that people think, uh, you know, people think like, uh, you know what? I don't remember what the preface was. Basically, the conclusion is that he thinks that we don't have enough breakdowns. That that we should have more breakdowns. Like every 7 years or so, we should have a breakdown.
every 7 years, that is too infrequent, in my opinion.
I think though, I think creatives, I think, yeah, creatives are a little different because I think creatives are wired a little differently. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like every 7 months, maybe. That seems more on schedule.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Like when I used to have a corporate job, I would go through years of, during the week, you're in the office, you're working 40, 50, 60, whatever hours a week. And then on the weekends, it's your time, right? And the conversation around the water cooler was like, "Oh, how was your weekend?" My
Yeah.
answer would always be the same. It was quiet and uneventful, and that's how I like it. I, because that's when my breakdown would happen. Like
Yeah.
during the week, do what I need to do at the office, and on the weekends, like I'll veg or do nothing or, you know, go into my cocoon, and then on Monday, okay, I go back and yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I had one every week if you want to
Every
count that.
every 7 days.
Every 7 days. But there were
Yeah.
many breakdowns.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I also have made solo shows, and that process is more like a whole a 7-month long
Mhm.
breakdown that culminates in a script somehow, where
Wait, okay, so you're breaking down for 7 months, and at the end you have a script, or
basically,
okay,
yeah, um, I I come up with like an idea where I'm just like, I know that this is a solo show, and then I spend a month crying about how I am not a good enough writer to write a whole play. And then so that's like the stage 1. And then and then month 2 I'm like, okay, I can I can write like pieces of it if I tell myself that they're also like little bits. And the nice thing about writing solo shows is that they can be broken down into like chunks of monologues
hmm,
instead of having to think about dialogue. So
right,
then I can like tell myself, okay, here are like the different topics that I want to hit on. And if I was going to write like a 3-minute set about 3-minute bit about this topic, then how would I write it? So then I'll like spend a week kind of obsessively writing, like cranking all these things out. And then the week after that, I'll reread it and tell myself I hate everything I wrote and I'm the worst writer in the world. And it would be an offense to everybody to have to watch this on stage. um, and then I just like sit in that space for like a week. And then I reread it, and then I'm like, okay, fine. It's not that bad. I'm being a little hard on myself. And then I like edit things about it again. And then I like finally get like something that's kind of cohesive that I could pitch to people. And then I make the mistake. I do this every time. I make the mistake of making my partner read it.
ah,
And then I spend another week saying, "You hate me. Every you think I am untalented. You feel sorry for me." And they're just like, "I think it's good." And I say, "You're a liar." um
now he knows this about you,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so he's not gonna take it personally when you call him a liar.
No, no, no.
Yeah,
They're like, "Oh, there she goes again."
yeah.
So then then the next week I go back and I say, "Okay, you were right." The things you said were good, I guess are good. The things you said I should fix, I fixed. Um, and then usually I bring in like another person who is like not as like a friend that I care about enough to not be a crazy person towards.
Hmm.
So not that I care about my partner too, but in a different way. But so then like then that friend will read it and they'll give me notes, and then I'll be like, okay, finally I had like a person that is like not me that read it and like didn't hate it. So it's like ready ready for me to be a little more okay with it.
So,
Um,
so the person who's so your friend who's not your partner, that friend, are are they do they know enough about writing, like
yeah,
whatever?
yeah. I
Okay.
usually ask my friends who are like dramaturgs
Okay.
or other playwrights.
Okay. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, cuz you want that critique, cuz like somebody who's not familiar with that kind of writing may not be able to give you constructive criticism.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then I'm like, I respect your opinions. You gave them to me. Now it's a thing that, like, then that's like the first draft, you know? And then I like start tweaking it and cleaning it up and submitting it to festivals, etc.
Mm.
But as you heard, 80% of my process is freaking out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alone, at myself, at my partner.
But that's yeah, but so that's part of your process. So I think what non-creatives may not understand is part of the process is emotional. And you know, like you may not be writing down the words, but as you're going through these emotions, you are in a sense kind of writing. And yeah, I think it's you know, there's a lot to be said about that in terms of um you know, when I write songs, like I have to be in a certain mindset. And I haven't really given myself that kind of mental emotional space the latter part of 2020, so I haven't
Hmm.
written anything in that time. I am sort of now kind of coming back into that. For some reason I find like the springtime, like the first half of any year, more productive than the second
Oh,
half. I don't know why. Yeah,
totally.
why is that? Is it
I
the
don't know.
sunlight, like shortening of days, that's just kind of like
Honestly, that probably is. Like, and it's like birth season, you
me?
know? Like everything is blooming and it's like, yes, so is my like soul and brain. Yeah, no. For me, May and September are the most productive. So
I
only
love
2 months out of the
yeah. Well, May is my birth month, so
year.
I
Me
always
too.
really wait. Are you a Gemini?
I am a Taurus.
You're a Taurus. Okay, so you're
Yeah.
earlier May. Yeah.
I'm like mid, yeah.
But actually, I actually have a friend who does the whole astrology chart. I'm
Hmm.
not I don't really believe in astrology or anything like that. But I you know it's a curious topic. So
Yeah.
I have a friend who studied that whole thing, and she was like, I want to do your your birth chart. I'm like, okay. So she did it, and so I have a very strong Taurus
Mm.
component to me. So you know, very often I act like a Taurus and not so much like a Gemini.
Mm.
So I guess yeah. Well, there
Grounded.
you go. You whatever. But yeah, going back to your process, I think that that is part of your creative process is going through those emotions.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And for me, it clarifies what is important about what I'm doing
Mhm.
because I really care about the why of pieces. um like if I'm like watching something or reading something and I don't see like the why. That's like other than that this person wanted to and could.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't really speak to me. So then, of course, I don't want to be a hypocrite. And, you know, a lot of the times there is this like impulse in me as a creative person who is a slave to capitalism, who keeps like being fed this idea that we need to be constantly be creating and putting out work into the world in order to be relevant or to identify as a creative or whatever. You know, there's all these like thoughts
Yeah,
that are just like, I need to be doing something all the time and I need to be posting on Instagram and like telling everybody how great I'm doing.
yeah.
Um,
That's sort of the more the business side of being a creator, because we feel like if we don't do it, then what good are we?
yes, yes.
Yes.
So then there are times when like I'll have ideas of something that I'm like, that'll be fun. But it and 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 these are all for different things. Like for example, a sketch, I don't really care. I'll write any sketch and it's more like a mental exercise for me to be like,
Hmm.
okay, what can I write that's 2 to 5 minutes long, that's funny, that's on this topic or whatever. So like sketch writing, I'm just like the point of writing a sketch is for a sketch show that I'm doing. Same for bits. They're more like I'm doing stand up because I like doing stand up, and these are truths that I need to get out of my system to continue being a functional person. So those are the whys for me for
Hmm.
those things, especially because they're like a smaller scale that, you know, doesn't affect a lot of people. But for it's like whatever, you know, these 10 people who are at this comedy show, they'll either laugh tonight or don't, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to change their life. But I think for I still feel a sense of responsibility when I do stand up too, because I think that anybody who stands on stage speaking into a microphone has a responsibility
To their audience.
to
Yeah.
say words that count.
Yeah.
Um, but I think because I already feel that on like a 2 to 5 to 15 minute level, when I write a whole solo show that is an hour to 90 minutes, I am like, I can't ask for 90 minutes for someone's attention if I don't mean everything that
Right.
I'm saying.
Right.
So
Right.
then often like that sense of, or like that pressure that I put on myself to like keep myself, to hold myself accountable for the work I make will like get ahead of me. So then it'll paralyze me because I'll be like, oh, I can't write anything
Uh.
because so then it's like that like crisis up and down that I go through over the course of writing it is a lot of just me like finding the balance, going back and forth between the part of me that is like, okay, I need to make sure that I mean everything I say and every word that I say counts. And
Mhm.
then the other part of me that is like, fucking right. Just get out of your head. Just spit everything out onto a piece of paper and then we'll figure it out later. So like those two parts of my brain just like
Yeah.
kind of fighting.
Yeah. 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 And I think, yeah, it's definitely a balance. And I mean, you probably heard, you know, um, other artists talk about their process, and sometimes all it is every day write for an hour, write for 10 minutes, whatever it is, write one line, whatever it is, and you keep doing that day after day and it becomes a habit, and sort of, and you kind of get into that, so you could put yourself, you could that you don't have to wait until like it comes to you or you're inspired to do it, but by doing so you're ingraining that process into your body, and so it becomes more automatic, and in the process, like, some of it may be good, most of it will be crap.
Oh, totally. Like
Yeah.
I write every day. Like I do write every day. But if you look in my notebook, there are pages and pages of where I'm writing about how I can't write.
Yeah.
And I'll just be like, I have nothing to write about today, but I have to write today because I haven't written today yet. And so I'm going to keep writing words until something comes up to like those days exist.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I still think back to, like, it was a couple of years ago. I think maybe it was 2019. I started writing these 100 word stories, and I really enjoyed writing them. But at some point, and I meant to do it every day,
Hmm.
or at least every other day or something. If I skipped a day, it's okay. I will just pick it up the next day, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But that one day skipping became 2 days and became five
Hmm.
days and became you know, it just kind of
Yeah.
like at some point I just had to say, like, okay, I guess I'm not doing this anymore. But then I feel like I am still doing it. It's just that I
Yeah.
haven't put anything out there yet. And so at some point I have to put out the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, like for daily things, just to get myself going, keeping the stakes really low
Yeah.
is really important to me because if I start being like you know have a 100 word story or like even if I told myself that I had to write one joke at least until I could stop writing, I would never because I would just be like, well, what if I can't write a joke today? Versus like just being like, I don't fucking care what it's about. Just sit down and write for 20 minutes. And that is all I have to do today to feel like I did something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it has been really helpful in getting me to like get out of my bed.
Yeah, I think you really touched on something there, that the bar, has to be low enough that it is achievable. And I think
Yeah.
that's sort of what stumped me, is that when I started it, it was fun, but at some point I felt like, oh, that it has to be just as good as the one before, or like,
Yep.
because like, and I sometimes impose all these rules on myself, like, okay, not only is it 100 words, but I want there to be some sort of a point that I'm trying to make. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why can't it just be 100 words of what
Exactly.
happened?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, no, I'm trying to make a point. And like, so I have to think of, what is the point of this story? And like, no, just tell the fucking story.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Sometimes I will, and even for sketch, because I'm in a sketch group, and often we have been doing fewer shows since the pandemic, but before we would do like a show a month. So then like every month we'll have to like pitch, write, edit, process. And it's like a pretty quick like process. And sometimes I will just the thought that I have to write a sketch will take up so much time
Mm.
from the actual time that I could be writing the sketch. So I'll just like spend days being like, I have to write a sketch. I have to write a sketch. There's a sketch I have to write. I have to write a sketch and I don't want to. And then I'll sit down and I'll write the sketch in an hour. I'll write it in one sitting and I'll be like, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do that 2 days ago? You know?
Because you weren't ready. So here's a metaphor that I love. So, bamboo.
Hmm.
You know how it grows.
Yes.
Yeah. So for those who are listening, if you don't know, so bamboo will spend, I don't know if it's months or years, but it'll just spend all that time. Like, you don't really see it growing above the ground, but underneath the ground, it's shooting down all its roots, creating this network of roots, so that it could really, you know, suck up the nutrients and water and all that stuff. And in a matter of days or weeks, it will shoot up like 10 feet or something like that. It was like ridiculous amount. So that's kind of, I think that's an apt metaphor for the creative process. So sometimes, like, when it's not obvious that we're writing, but we are in like some aspect or step in the creative process that we're doing, even though we're not actively writing things down, or or me playing on my guitar.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
for me, really coming to terms with that saved me from a probably deeper
Mm.
COVID induced depression that I could have fallen into. Um, where, because I remember at the beginning of all of this, everybody was like, Shakespeare wrote King Lear during the plague.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? You have
Oh,
so
I
much
know.
time that you never had before. You have to use it to make things. And like that
And
just
and one Facebook ad after another about some class or some
yes,
whatever, and I'm like, fuck you, I don't need this pressure.
everyone was suddenly like,
Yeah.
we have to be the most productive and
Right.
creative that we
Right.
have been in our entire lives.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no.
Yeah.
No. I I have, like, in another way, I have never had this much time to not be productive and creative in my entire life. And I would like to experience that. And I
Hmm.
want to know what that feels like. and I told myself that will be important to me in my future creative processes. So, kind of just like letting go of that need
Yeah.
to be constantly creating, and also like unlearning that stillness is not necessarily lack of productivity was really important for
Yeah.
sure.
I think it's sort of oh shoot. I was about to make a brilliant point. Now I forgot.
Oh no.
Oh yes. So I think for a creative person, that uh, everything that we experience, highs, lows, productive periods. I'm doing air quotes, productive periods and non-productive periods, because some listeners will be on audio only. Um, that none of it, like, just like the scraps of pieces of paper that we have scattered throughout our apartment, that none of it is wasted. That
Yep.
all of it feeds or fuels some future creative project. Um, yeah, so I think, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So whatever you went through during COVID, uh, is gonna come out in something that you're gonna do. Yeah,
The
just like
bamboo.
bamboo shooting up. Yeah, 2021, 2022, 2025, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping. I believe it. I believe it. And I plant seeds. And I like telling myself that planting seeds is enough of a beginning, instead of just like being like, I'm gonna plant the seed now and then I'm gonna fertilize the shit out of it and then make it grow as fast as possible. Like, and that is the rhetoric. We are all taught that, like, that's the only way to be.
yeah, but
But
too much fertilizer can kill the seed.
yes, exactly. So I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm I'm trying the organic route.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying the
yeah,
organic route this year.
yeah, yeah. I think, yeah. Sometimes it's hard to know though when to push so that you can, you know get across that threshold and have that breakthrough, because sometimes you do need to push yourself just to, like, and then there are times when you really do just need to let go, and and just kind of go with whatever comes. And sometimes it's difficult to know, and this is I think where a lot of the sort of like self-talk comes in, where like, oh, you're not doing enough, what are you doing, you should be
Yeah.
writing, you should
Yeah.
be doing this.
Totally. Which I think like that's why being able to identify that May and September are productive months for me has been really helpful, because like during the summer or like in the winter months, I'll start feeling really insecure about not being crazy busy.
Mm.
But then I know that when like I'm in that state, I'll like start in that insecurity. I'll start like dipping my toes in a bunch of different projects, or like telling people that I can help them with something, or all these things. And then in May and September, when I start getting like when my personal projects start picking up, I choke myself, because I had like I believed that these months won't come. So I had like spread myself super
Oh,
thin
right, okay.
to try to like create this like insurance that I'm gonna have something to do. And then it used to be this like negative cycle where I would only be able to give everything like 80%, because I create this trap for myself
Yeah.
by being nervous when I'm not as busy, versus when I know when things are coming, I instead of feeling restless in like December or in August, I can space my time out better or
Mm.
like space out the rhythms of my life to be like, okay, these are the things that I believe that I can comfortably 100%, 120% of my attention to, like during this time frame. Which, yeah, maybe to some people doing 10 projects at 80% is more impressive than doing 5 projects at 100%. But it's just like reorienting priorities for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think one way or the other is necessarily right or wrong. I think is,
Exactly.
yeah, it's whatever helps that person, accomplish whatever they wanted to do. Yeah. So, again, it took me 15 years to put out one album.
And you did.
Yeah, and then
Win.
who knows? Maybe it'll be another 15 years until my second album comes out. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, if Jody's listening to this, he'll be rolling his eyes.
You take as long as you want. Jody's gonna say I'm a bad influence.
um, but kind of going back to how you, um, when you're writing your full, uh, the fuller works, that you give it to your partner, you give it to a friend for feedback and all that stuff. Do you do that with jokes too? Your comedy work?
Um, for jokes, because at least before the pandemic, there was
Right,
I
the
could do a
live
mic
audience.
any night.
Right.
So it was more about that feedback, where it's like do I will try a new joke and then see how it works with an audience and then adjust it. And like I do pitch my jokes to my partner, because my partner um also did comedy for much longer than I did, or I have been doing. So like I will pitch new premises to them just to be like, do you think this is funny? But ultimately, I don't care what they say. Like, it's more just like as a thing, as a conversation topic, because like
Yeah, he's there.
regardless, yeah, it, whether they say it's a good bit or if it's stupid, like I'm gonna try it on stage to
Yeah.
see for myself. So that is more of my process for joke writing, especially because for me personally, and this is like a different, super different for all different comics, I think. But like I said earlier, all of my jokes are so personal to me, or like I know exactly how I want to tell a joke. Like whether or not I still know, I have figured out the words or the timing or the joke structure for it. Like I have a really clear vision on how I want a joke to turn out. So like joke feedback sessions have never fully worked for me because like other comedians pitching jokes to me, I will just be like, that makes no sense. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't know me.
And actually, I'm a huge consumer of stand up, so I watch a lot of like stand up comedy specials, and also um a fair amount of like interviews that they give, or or I forget what the shows were called, but there's this sort of round table type of show where there are a bunch of comics, they sit around, they talk, and they invariably talk about their process and all that. And I also listen to Joe Rogan podcast a lot, and he often
Hmm.
talks about his own process. So yeah, so I do, and I think it's sort of universal that I mean that comics tend not to, especially the more seasoned ones, they tend not to try out their jokes to other comics.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's really, really more about getting the feedback from the audience,
Yeah.
because comedians will sort of listen to the joke differently than a regular audience would, you know?
And I think like comics that I know will listen to a joke with their lens, because
Yes.
they also have their own idea of what they believe is good stand up.
Yeah.
And like, sure, that can be true for them, but it's not for me. And I think also I have had experiences where um, being a woman, a queer Asian woman in stand up, uh, not as many as I wish there were. And so a lot of the times I will get feedback from white men comedians being like, I don't think that joke works because it doesn't make sense to me. Um, and I'm like, this joke is not for you, sir. And and then I'll do the same bit at like a queer Black, Indigenous, and people of color show, and it'll kill because it is a space that has more people who like see and experience the world in a closer sense that I do than the straight white men comics
Yeah.
do. So then it's like their feedback is not necessarily useful to me because their standard or like their expectations and with the things that they find funny are just like not even related to what I'm trying to say or like
Yeah.
the experience that I want to give people. So it's kind of just like I would rather follow my own instinct. I would rather see who in the audience is reacting in what way. Like oftentimes I I I was really freed when I really realized like who I do my stand up for.
Mm.
Where it's like, yeah, of course I want everybody to like me and to laugh. Okay, I'm human. But when I like do a set and um women, especially women of color and queer people, come up to me and are like, you express something that I have been wanting to forever, and you made me laugh. Like, I could cry because that makes me so happy.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as like those people exist, I don't care really if the people who aren't them
Mm-hmm.
are like staring at me in confusion. You know? Um and that like helped me get closer to the stand up that I want to do more versus like trying to please everybody because
You can't.
I'm not for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, and comedy, as much as I don't know other things, is. I mean, humor sometimes. I'm trying to think if there is something that's absolutely universally funny to everyone in every situation. Probably not. So,
Farting, I think, is
okay,
pretty close. I think farts are pretty close.
farts and poops,
I think people love that shit, and
fart jokes.
anyone who is like, I'm above fart jokes, I'm like, you are a liar. I don't believe you.
Bodily function jokes, yeah.
Uh,
Because I guess, like, yeah, is there a single person on the entire earth who has not ever farted?
yes,
Probably
exactly.
not. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Um, so
But
yes,
yeah, no,
okay.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so like humor is sometimes, like it's, that's why there are so many different kinds of comics out there because, um, you know, we all find different things funny. But at the same time, I think as a comic, that if you like, you can't censor yourself, right? You can't say, oh, you know, maybe this is not funny to some people, so I won't make a joke about that, or this is
Hmm.
a taboo subject, so I won't make a joke about that. I think then you're doing a disservice to whoever audience might be yours. You know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
totally agree, and I think like it it comes down to like what your really core values are, right? Because if like one, I think that someone who like let me find a way to articulate this. Like you will never make a joke that you don't believe in if you truly believed in the things you make your jokes about.
Okay, wait. Say that
Does that
again.
make sense?
No, no, no. Yeah. I think so, but say that again.
um okay. You like one would could never make a joke about something that they don't believe if they really believe what they believe in and what they're telling the jokes about. Does that make sense?
Okay, right, right. So,
Which is why like it works the other way. Where like if someone makes a racist joke
yeah.
and they're like it was a joke, I'm like, well, if you thought making a that joke was a good idea, there's probably like you're probably a racist. Like there's a part of your brain that
Ah.
allows that racism to exist, which like of course a much hyperbolized clear example. But like it goes both ways where it's like a person who like makes a joke about a taboo subject matter, if they truly believe that that is the joke that they have to tell and they believe that they have something important to say about it, then like they would, if they truly care about writing jokes and like believe in the responsibility that someone who stands on a stage with a microphone has,
Yeah.
would
Okay.
like make a joke, like a good joke, even about a taboo subject.
Yeah. This is actually very interesting. Let's kind of get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, that if I tell a racist joke, then there is some racist part of me that allows it to tell that joke.
Yes. Like
Okay.
if the joke,
So
if
it's
ultimately
it's
the
another
joke
way. Yeah.
or like the effect of the joke is, or like what's quote unquote funny
Right.
about that joke is the racism,
Right.
versus there are like satirical
Right.
jokes that like spin its head on the history of racist jokes that have been told in America for
Yeah.
as long as comedy existed. Like that is possible by, I'm like, this is such a like,
We're doing like a
I know what I'm
gymnastics.
thinking,
Yeah.
but like
This is a
the
conceptual gymnastics that we're doing.
yeah, the concept is like complicated, so I'm like, I want to word everything well, but I think it's like ultimately it's like, do you mean what you said,
Yeah. So
and do you
so
know what you're saying?
right. So it's another way of saying there's a kernel of truth in every joke, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of an expanded, more, yeah, more text. We're saying that basically that with more texture. Um, so for the sake of argument, that a racist joke, uh, can be, uh, can come from not necessarily a racist perspective, but a criticism of that perspective.
Yes. So it's
Yeah,
like, is it a racist joke? Is it a racist joke or a joke about the existence of racism?
right,
Right.
right. Sometimes, though, it's not. Sometimes, though, well, sometimes it's not clear.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the audience actually take it the wrong way. That it's really a criticism about this, but then they take it as, no, you are making fun of this, as
Yes.
opposed to you're criticizing this. Yeah.
And I think that just like comes down to like, are we as comedian, like, can we as comedians do better? And like, and this is my personal opinion on comedy, and I don't want people coming at me or comedians feeling like I'm attacking them. But I guess it's like I would rather think the joke, like if I'm going to do a joke about a taboo subject, I would rather fully think it through and make sure that it is really clear what I'm saying before I do that joke. Like, and that's again the responsibility of making the choice to make that kind of joke. Because ultimately, like,
Yeah.
no one has to. Like, there are enough jokes about race that exist. So, unless it's like really new and like saying something that with a completely different perspective that is really important for that specific comedian to point out, me personally, I'm like, why why take that
Mm.
route? Like,
So, do you think that it's sort of like a cheap shot, or like a low hanging fruit kind of thing? Like that
kind
they
of,
were lazy,
where
in a
it's just like,
creatively lazy, and that's something that's a quick laugh that they can get, and therefore they
mm-hmm.
will sort of, okay. So is it really more that, um than the subject itself.
Yeah, yeah. I think that it's like we were talking about earlier. Like I really think that anything can be joked about.
Yeah.
But I also really think that if you want to joke about anything, and if there are specific things that you want to joke about, then you really need to know what you're doing. Where it's like, you know, I guess I don't know if this is a good metaphor. I just thought of it. But like there are surgeries that are harder than
Sure.
like some surgery, you know, like someone who can do like a double eyelid surgery probably shouldn't suddenly do a heart transplant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Like that is definitely. Oh my, I got really passionate. um but
Um,
all right, I'm
yeah.
back. But you know, like that is how I also feel about certain subject matters, where it's like, for example, I uh have a series of jokes about the sexual assaults that I have experienced in my life. Um, content warning, I guess. But I like I have been making those like kind of jokes in my life to like my friends or my partners, like when it comes up, and it's like, but I like didn't do any on stage
Mm-hmm.
until I was probably at least 3 years in. And I had like really, really written them and thought about them. And I still like am really have been really selective about when I work those jokes and like how to continually adjust them and like what spaces I do them in.
Mm.
Because like it is a sensitive subject,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I think, yeah. So, I mean, you are talking about a topic where um, the event itself or the act, itself, uh, invariably results in trauma, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so anyone who has experienced that could possibly be traumatized by a crass
Exactly.
version of a crass way of talking about that subject matter. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, no, I get it. I wonder though. I mean, yeah, yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. Um, and you're right. I mean, there is, a well crafted way of addressing that, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if it's well crafted, obviously you could tell that that person, that comic, put a lot of thought and time into it, crafting that, and it's told well, poignantly, and found the humor in it that
Mm-hmm.
we could all relate to and laugh about. Um, Now, but here's the thing. That takes a long time for a comic to work that out.
Yes.
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 So I think so I guess here's a question, right? Um that when you're first starting out, you're not that refined. You're not that developed. Your comic sensibility and
Mm-hmm.
and and your craft and all that. And and you're learning. And I hear, uh, different ranges. Some people say like first 10 years, it takes 10 years to get really good, or it takes like 20 years to get really good, or whatever. Everybody
Yeah.
says it differently, but it's years, it's not months.
Yep.
Yeah. um and so then does that mean that a comic cannot even broach these sensitive topics until they get to a point where they're so seasoned that they will be able to uh joke about it? Yeah.
Um, I think like if if, if people want to crash and burn,
Yeah.
like I guess it's up to you. I do like I think to just be like careful or like say things that like why would you say something into a microphone that you wouldn't say to a person, you know, like I think
I have
that's
no idea. I have no idea
well
why
exactly
comics do
exactly
what they do.
there are some people that I have seen and heard that are complete mysteries to me, to just be like,
Yeah.
why did you just think that was a good idea? So I think it it ultimately is, it's like use good judgment,
But
rule of thumb.
I guess what I'm saying is, but isn't that part of the process too? Because you say stupid things, and then the reaction is, "My goodness, how could you even say that?" I'm like, okay, that's not working. But
Yes,
you know what I
I
mean?
think
Yeah.
my hope is that like that all that happens, and then uh that comic will learn from that experience and continue to grow. I also know that a lot of the stand-up community that is still around right now is still really toxic and like masculine male whiteness stuff going on. So I've also seen comics say racist shit, have audience like not react well or be upset at them, and then the comic gets mad at the audience.
Right.
And like and that is kind of just the a common thing that I
Yeah.
have seen a lot, and I think that it is important to not be like, oh, we're all going to be like PC and nice and whatever,
Yeah.
but it's also just like don't be stupid. it it I don't know.
It's
It's hard.
well, yeah. I mean, there's some economic principles that play into the comic and the audience, right? That if something doesn't pay off, then obviously that over time it's not repeated. And I mean, if you listen to comics, 30, 40, whatever years ago, they say different things,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and taste changes, audience changes. But I think there is though. So I think I personally, I mean, I'm not a comic. I'm in the audience, and I even as an audience member, I lean more toward that. All's fair. Say whatever it is you want, and you know if I don't like it, I won't listen to you.
hmm
You know, so there is that sort of marketplace, that free market kind of economy that takes place. And if enough people don't listen to you, then you're not going to get hired again. There's not going to be another,
yeah.
special, that sort of thing. And so I I think like I wouldn't necessarily tell um, anybody, especially uh, where speech is the medium or the product, or it's what your words, it's what you're saying. Like I wouldn't ever tell someone like don't make this joke or don't tell the joke that way or whatever. It's like No, you say it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
yeah.
I think for me, it's ultimately like craft it.
Yeah,
Like like
it's
just
definitely a
put in
craft.
some sort of effort, please. Like I think that is where it comes down to,
Yeah.
where sometimes because stand up uh comes across as being very like free and like you're uh like the best comics sound like they're talking off the top of their heads, even if it's material that they've been working on for
Oh
years and
yeah.
years and years, right?
Yeah.
Which I think often, and what you were saying earlier about like, yeah, but what about people starting out, I think is really valid. But there is this like part of me who is like, well, it's still an art form. It's still a craft. So like sure, at an open mic that you're paying for stage time, like I guess you can try whatever that you want to try as long as it's not like hate speech. um but yes, like I'm like it's still something that
Yeah.
you have to work on. Like you can't just talk out of your ass and then expect any kind of um like reward from that experience. So it's like I, art is the joke about race that you made a
Yeah.
cheap racist throwaway line that like there was just no real reason for you to say other than you thought is an easy laugh, or is it clear that you wrote it? I think is like a very distinct difference.
Yeah. So then okay, so, again this is another sort of for the sake of argument.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the comic is genuinely racist. This is his worldview, right? And I said his word. This is their worldview. It could be a she. Um and so but this is their thing. This is their truth and they're speaking to it. Now, I mean, it can be horribly offensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably an audience that will laugh to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I will say
There's a
that
question in there somewhere.
I think that there is often like freedom of speech
Yeah.
is about people being protected from the government.
Yeah.
Like you people can say what they want and they like the government can't shut them down for it.
So yeah, so the freedom of speech is the way the First Amendment reads is that there shall be no law put in place, shall
Yeah.
be no law established or something to that effect, that curtails or prohibits the freedom of speech, religion, press, and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Inherent or implicit in that is we have that right, and
Yes.
that government entities cannot, put in place laws that like inhibit that or censor that in any way. Yeah.
Yes. But that doesn't mean that private entities such as a venue or a show producer,
Ah. Sure.
etc., cannot shut you down or shut
Sure.
the person in question down. And I think that is like often confused in conversations surrounding freedom of speech, or at least like ones that I have been in where people argue like I can say whatever I want because of freedom of speech, where it's like, no, I can tell you to get off the fucking stage.
Yeah.
Um,
If you're the proprietor of that stage, yes, yes, you could absolutely
yes.
do that. But that sort of happens all the time. You audition performers, Well, actually, an open mic is a little different, where it's
Yeah.
open to everyone, and
And
yeah,
for me, because like I like I like kindness. I like people to be happy. I okay. I don't mind people being uncomfortable by the
yeah,
things I say.
yeah.
But I want to mainly empower, right? Like me personally, I want people who feel like they have been the butt of the jokes throughout
Hmm.
their lives to feel like they can make the joke and that they do not have to be the butt of the joke, that they can be the powerful person in a joke dynamic, which
Mm-hmm.
is why which is what I try to um, keep at the forefront when I do comedy and write jokes.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see comedians who do jokes that tear people down, I'm like, I don't like you.
Mm.
Like, I'm not saying that, like, I personally, like, of course, you're alive and the world exists and you're a part of it, and that sucks. And I'm allowed to not like you.
Yeah. No,
like,
absolutely.
that's just how I feel. Like, I don't think you're contributing to making the world a better place, and therefore don't like you.
Yeah. Um, I wonder though that if that is I'm trying to think if that is purely a subjective opinion, or if there's some sort of uh because somebody could say that about you and your art form as well,
Oh, for
that
sure. A
yeah,
lot of people don't like
yeah,
some of the
that
jokes I
that
make.
comedy, the role of comedy and the purpose of comedy is to shake things up, is to you know, to push that envelope, is to um by making fun of it, what they're doing is sort of waking people up, um
Yeah. I
to
think I
yeah,
also just like don't think that shock value that comes from just purely because we're talking about racism. Like other taboo subjects, kind of different, but shock value that comes from racism is not like pushing the envelope or interesting or new at this point in history. Like anything that, like, any kind
yeah,
of racist sentiment that someone can
yeah,
have the audacity to say on stage,
yeah,
like I think is, or like has been said passe, and is not actually adding to a envelope pushing conversation because it has just been the general mindset of the in power population for so many years. And I think that's like the main thing about that topic for me.
right. So just to clarify, that so are you making a distinction between racist joke and jokes criticizing racism?
Yes, of course.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, so yeah. So I think any so but here's the thing, right? That that very often, I mean, we're saying, we're talking about racism as a for example, but it could be anything, right?
Hmm.
It could be any kind of cultural or social or political or religious thing that you could be criticizing. Um, but so sometimes though the criticism um, can be construed by the audience as not criticism, but inappropriate or shock value or or lowbrow or whatever, right? I think though,
Mm-hmm.
I think you and I both know if something is really well thought out and well crafted, we'll recognize it for what it is. That it's a
Exactly, which
yeah,
is why I like go back to saying that if like a comic wants to do a joke that criticizes racism but then is misconstrued by the audience as being a racist joke, then they should just go home and rewrite it.
right,
You
right.
know, like
Keep
that's the
working on it.
problem, you know. Um they probably shouldn't do it the exact same way again. Like that's probably not the right move. Um and that's what it is. You know,
You
that's
know,
the craft portion
yeah.
of it.
What I find interesting is, so a lot of comics will go to these open mics and and test out their material, and and that's part of the process too. You test it out in front of an audience, you refine the
Mm-hmm.
joke, come back and test it out again. You keep doing that until like it really hits all the points that you want it to. um Now, uh but here's the thing, that audience, your test audience, is a self-selected audience, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is not the mass population. So
Yeah.
mass population is a lot more diverse in terms of worldviews and opinions and taste.
Mm-hmm.
But
Totally.
people who go to comedy clubs, right, they go to hear edgy things, funny things, shocking things very often. Uh,
Yeah. And I
and
think that
they're
oh,
more
sorry.
open. They're more open, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Your average comedy club audience is more open in terms of like, you know, um, in terms of accepting different viewpoints.
Yeah. And then I think that goes back to just like use your head. You know, like you have one. There are different venues with different audience spaces, and you want to make sure that you know what's up, that you like fit your material to that space. And of course that's why people want an abundance of material so that they can like adjust their like the bits that they do or like how they do it to the different venues or like the audience shapes. You know, like I wouldn't do a set even if it's the same jokes, a set that's for 10 people and a set that's for 50 people is like just a different
Mm,
piece. You know, like
mm,
you would do it differently. One would do it differently. So similarly, like a show that is in a dive bar in East Village, probably at like 11 p.m. Different vibe
they're all
than
drunk, so they'll laugh at anything.
yeah. I will probably do different jokes compared to a show at like uh uh women like the new women's space in Williamsburg at
Yeah.
6 p.m. You know, like it's a different space with a different room. And I think a really big part of like just doing stand up that other than being like telling jokes or writing them and performing them is the ability to like shape the atmosphere of
Hmm.
the room you're working.
Yeah. Yeah. I think knowing your environment, knowing your audience is definitely part of the performance. And if you're not attuned to that, then I don't think you're a good comic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So then
Yeah.
like that is kind of my response to your earlier question about like the comedy club going audience versus like the general public. But there are
Right.
some comedy shows that not comedy club audience are at, or there are like me doing a show at a comedy club versus me doing a set at my friend's like sustainable fashion symposium that they just wanted like entertainment in the middle of. You know, it's really different. But like as a
Yeah.
comic, we want to be able to be adaptive to that. And you know, there are some, I know there are comics who are like, I just want to be a club comic for the rest of my life. I don't know if they still exist like in my generation, but like that is also a thing. And if like that's your space, and if like you just want to tell jokes about the difference between men and women to tourists for the rest of your life, like I guess like that's what you want to do, but
But
I
here's
don't
the
want to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And here's the thing. I mean, I think I don't know if you're being overly critical or not, but you could, in the music space, there's there's a lot of crappy songs out there
Yeah.
that people have actually recorded and produced and did
Yeah,
like music
I'm
videos of. And
sure.
oh no, there are a ton, and you wonder like, how did this ever get sold? Um, so but if this is what they want to do, like whatever, more, whatever. It, I
Exactly.
mean, like I wouldn't criticize them. I mean, yes, I would, and like this is such a crappy song, um, but uh, I wouldn't say that like they have no business doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
I would scratch my head as to like how they ever made money doing that, but but
Yeah,
yeah.
I think for me, I'm just like, I don't want to be you. Like we our realities are not like
Yeah.
whatever. Like yeah.
But I mean that's a prerogative. And I think yeah, we all have different tastes, different worldviews and stuff. So yeah, different experiences certainly. Um, cool. So you know what? I just realized this entire time we actually did not get to eat the beer cake. So
I
let's do
know.
that
Well,
now.
I like dropped mine onto the ground.
Oh, did you? Oh
Remember
no,
earlier when I was making a mess?
it's on the ground.
Well, I
Okay.
like picked it up, but I'm like, well,
Well, here's mine.
yay! Did
Well,
you make them?
I did. So
It's
this
okay.
is
I dropped a slice, so I'll eat the rest
okay.
later for
Yeah.
sure.
So the story behind beer cake. So this is something that this is the first cake I learned how to make. I'm gonna eat
Mm-hmm.
one. And the recipe came down from I recently found out came from our grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it came from my aunt. And sorry,
No worries.
chewing and talking at the same time. Um, and I thought the story went like this: that my aunt went to a restaurant, had a piece of beer cake, liked it so much, asked for the recipe, brought it home, started making it, and then passed it down to us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I told this story to my sisters and my cousins, so my cousins, my aunt's children,
Mm-hmm.
and not a single person remembers any piece of the story. So, so either I made it up, and told it to myself that it's true, or I dreamt it and got confused between dream and reality, or my aunt told this story only to me and no one else.
Lots of theories.
Well, yeah, but somehow that's the memory I have, and it's a funny thing about memory. Um, uh, but since the rest of my family, the consensus is that it was our grandmother who started making it, and they don't know where she got the recipe or if she made it up. And then and taught us, and that's how we all got to make it. So this is a cake that for a while our family made it often, and
Nice.
yeah, yeah. So that's it.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good cake. And I
Smells so
think,
good.
well, and the thing is, even when I make it differently each time. And so
Mm-hmm.
no one has the definitive recipe. We all have our own version of it. Yeah. And so, yeah, and I don't send the cake out to everyone because then I'll be eating beer cake every week.
I am honored, and here I'll show that I have it.
Yay!
And I was really excited to eat it, but then earlier I caused a mess, so I didn't. I haven't gotten to, but I have the rest of the cake.
Yeah, yeah, don't eat that one.
So.
Eat the other one. Um yeah, and if you're not going to eat it right away, since I did make it a few days ago, maybe put it in the refrigerator so that it'll keep longer. But anyway, yeah, we've been talking for about almost 3 hours. Yeah, I think it went pretty quickly. Yeah,
Yeah, I did.
yeah, this was good. I liked it. Um, there was one thing I actually also wanted to. Oh yes, I want to show everybody this because this is how Non and I met. Um, oh, share screen. So we used to go to this space called New Women's Space in Brooklyn, and our mutual friend Steph told me one day
Mm-hmm.
that that you were doing, I think, a monthly show or no,
Mm-hmm.
no, twice a month.
Twice a month.
Yeah, comedy show twice a month where you invited fellow comics and you guys all did like 10 minutes a piece or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Steph told me that you may be looking for a musical guest, and I jumped on that and I'm like, yay! And so you and I we were going back and forth about it, and I had asked you, hey, do you have any like a something that I could use to promote on my social media? Um, yeah, here we go. So, hey, it's not showing the whole thing.
I think
Uh,
it's the whole thing.
Oh no, it's not showing the whole thing. There's the bottom of it is cut off a little bit. Hold on a second. Let me see if I could expand this. Mm, I don't know if that's better. Oh, okay. Here we go. No, no. Okay. Oh yeah, you can see it. No, you know what it is? The thing is whole. Never mind. Yeah, you can see the whole thing. It's just that I can't see it.
Oh,
Because
okay.
the control panel is
Oh,
hiding
right,
a
right,
piece of
right,
it. Anyway, so I had asked Nan for this collateral so I could use, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And I come from a corporate background, and so like I kind of have this a bit of impatience. Like if I ask for
Sorry.
something, no, it's not your fault. You did eventually give me one with my name on it, but I saw this on your social media, so I just downloaded that picture and inserted my own picture in and this is what I did. And I was afraid that you might get upset, so I didn't tell you. I showed it to
No.
you. I don't know. I kind of figured, well, she's a comedian, so she'll probably find it's funny. But I did eventually show you this, and you laughed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is my humor.
It's great. You saved me some work.
Well, you did eventually put my name in there, and
Yes.
and nice, pretty pink. Yeah. I think I have. I think I have a. Yeah, this is it. There you go. Yay! My
Woohoo.
name in print.
Yes. Uh, these nonsense promo photos.
Oh, they're awesome. Here, let me show you another one that I downloaded. Ooh, very risque.
Yes. Yeah, the ones for the promo photos that I made for nonsense were like I was trying to do like funny pinup, like making like silly pinup photos that were like all done in my apartment, like bedroom. So they're like low budget pinup photos, but
Yeah.
like kind of earnest. Uh, so they're really silly. You can see more on my Instagram. There's also a nonsense show Instagram if you want to check that out, even though we are not currently up and running.
But no, definitely check out our Instagram. So yeah, so where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, as we have been talking about, and JJ showed you earlier, at Nyanchate, Nyanchatte. And then on Twitter, I'm at Non of Your Business, where it's at NON, like my name. And then business is spelled BIZNESS.
Not to confuse people.
Not to be, business was taken. Okay,
Ah.
someone had taken it. And then yeah, my website is my full name, nonkuramoto.com, if you want to see the other stuff that I do. But if you're just interested in staying up to date or like seeing fun pictures of me, then definitely Instagram.
Oh, there you go. And I'll have those all that information in the description section under this video on YouTube, because that's where this video will live, and it will be in the description. So if you check out the description, there'll be all kinds of links, including where you can find Non. So
Follow
yeah,
me, support my work.
yeah, support her work, support this podcast. Yeah, we artists, we need support. Yeah,
Especially now.
absolutely. Was there something else? No, I don't know. Yeah, so earlier I said something, and then I sort of like stuck in. I decided this is gonna be my thing, that there's a question in there somewhere.
Okay.
that I decided I'm gonna work that phrase in every
You're gonna
episode
use it.
somewhere. Yeah, exactly. Because that's my thing. Because like sometimes I have these really long preambles to a question that sometimes by the end of that preamble I forget the actual question, and so I end up saying there's a question in there somewhere, and usually the person I'm talking to like understands where I'm trying to go, and picks it up and responds. So yeah, I mean, I need to have some sort of a catchphrase, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's good to have a catchphrase.
Yeah. Sounds like there might be dinner coming soon. I don't know. I hear something like on your
Oh,
end. Somebody's in the kitchen.
I don't know. My roommate's making food.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's been fun. It
Yes,
was a
and it was so
really,
good seeing you and catching up with you.
yeah, yeah. Uh, you know, keep me posted on stuff that you're doing, and yeah.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to your album whenever it may come.
I'm, I'm hoping. Well, I think if I kind of focus, maybe I'll be able to finish it. I'm not gonna say this year, maybe next year, hopefully. Well,
Nice.
finances is the other factor too. Like
Mm,
it takes money,
yep.
also to produce the album. Although I could possibly do a DIY, but I'm not really a musician. Um, like my guitar playing kind of sucks. People say I should stop saying that, but it does. It's, yeah.
JJ,
So
if at my guitar playing level,
yeah.
I produced and released an album on Bandcamp over the summer,
Oh
you are an incredible guitar player
no
that
no.
deserves everything.
Oh, that's the other thing. Bandcamps. Oh, okay, so yeah. I don't think you sent me the Bandcamp information. So send that to me, and I'll put it in the description as well.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to check it out. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been
Yes,
fun.
thank
Yes,
you.
yes. So, thank you, everyone. Please follow Beer Cake with JJ Co. At Beer Cake Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can follow just one of them because it's basically the same information that's on all of them. I'm lazy that way. And then if you want to support this podcast, go to Anchor.fm, Patreon.com, or BuyMeACoffee.com. I'm everywhere. All right.
That
Thanks,
car
everyone.
horn came in at like
just in time.
That was perfect.
Yeah. All right. On that note, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.